What's up, guys? You know, sometimes the most powerful moments in our walk with God are the silent ones. Not the shout, not the breakthrough, not the answered prayer, but the silence. And there's a passage in the Bible that most churches skip right past because it's uncomfortable. But today, we're going straight into it. In Matthew chapter 15, verses 22 through 28, it says, "A Canaanite woman from that vicinity came to him crying out, 'Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering terribly.' Jesus did not answer a word. So his disciples came to him and urged him, 'Send her away, for she keeps crying out after us.' He answered, 'I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel.' The woman came and knelt before him. 'Lord, help me,' she said. He replied, 'It is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs.' 'Yes, it is, Lord,' she said. 'Even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table.' Then Jesus said to her, 'Woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted.' And her daughter was healed at that moment. That's the truth nobody talks about. Let's stop at that line. Jesus did not answer a word. That's the part nobody preaches. She's begging, she's hurting, and he says nothing. Why? Because sometimes the silence is the test. God doesn't ghost you, he grooms you. You see, this woman was a Canaanite, a Gentile, the people Israel was commanded to drive out. She's not just a random outsider. She's a descendant of Israel's ancient enemies. So she comes to Jesus, not entitled, not arrogant, but desperate. Her daughter is tormented by demons, and even though she's not part of the covenant people, she believes he's the answer. She calls him Lord, Son of David. That's a messiah title. She knows exactly who he is. And Jesus was silent. Here's where most of us check out. She prays. He's silent. We take that as rejection. We think silence means absence, but in scripture, silence often means evaluation. He doesn't say no, he doesn't say yes, he says nothing, and that nothing reveals everything. Even the disciples wanted rejection. Then the disciples step in, send her away. They're annoyed. They want Jesus to shut her down. Sometimes the people closest to Jesus don't reflect his heart. Don't let church folks convince you Jesus said no when he's just waiting to see if you'll keep coming. And when Jesus finally does speak, he says, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel." That's not rejection, it's alignment with his mission. Jesus came to fulfill God's promise to Israel first, but that doesn't mean others are excluded. It means they must come in faith. And then she does something that absolutely moves heaven. She kneels, she worships, she says, "Lord, help me." And Jesus answered again, "It's not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs." Oof, that's the line nobody wants to preach. But you have to understand something. This wasn't a random insult. It was a parable in a sentence. He's saying the bread, that's the blessing, is for the children, Israel. You don't feed it to the dogs, Gentiles. And this woman could have just walked away offended. She could have thrown her hands up and said, "I knew it. You're just like the others." But instead, she says, "Yes, Lord, but even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." She didn't fight for a seat, she asked for a crumb. That's faith. Not prideful, not offended, not entitled, just hungry enough to believe that even a crumb of Jesus is enough to change her whole life. And then what happens? Jesus says, "Woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted." She goes from outsider to recipient, from silence to miracle, from dog to daughter. I'll be real with you. I've had times when I prayed and heard nothing. Not a whisper, not a goosebump, not a door opening or a cloud parting, just silence. I remember sitting in a church parking lot years ago asking God to speak, to move, to make a way, and nothing. I felt like this woman, unseen, unheard, and unworthy. But I kept praying, I kept kneeling, I kept worshiping, and it wasn't the loud shout that brought my breakthrough. It was the quiet faith that held on in the silence. And when God moved, it was instant, sudden, unmistakable. And I realized something. The silence didn't mean no, it meant not yet. Sometimes God is silent because he wants to see if your faith is louder than your feelings. You may feel unqualified, uninvited, unwelcome, but if you have the faith to keep kneeling, to keep asking, to keep trusting, even the crumbs will be enough to change your life. So don't let silence stop your faith. Don't let people talking behind you keep you from pressing towards Jesus. Don't let offense rob you of the breakthrough that's waiting at the master's table. Stay at his feet, speak his name, and watch what happens. If this message hit home, like, share, comment, I'm holding on, and tag someone who needs to hear it. Let's remind the world that Jesus still answers even when it starts with silence.